Hello again, I'm Dr. Scott Davis. Thanks again for joining me in another episode of Famous Addictions That Changed History. Once again, I'll take you through a brief journey of how addiction to drugs drove a famous person, good or bad, living or dead, to ultimately change the course of history. There have been countless figures who have battled with addiction throughout their lives. In turn, their own addictions to drugs changed their thought, judgment, and behaviors that changed the course of events for so many others. This is the focus of these podcasts. Our next subject is the famous psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud. Psychoanalysis, a field of psychology that emphasizes understanding the unconscious mind, has its roots in the work of Austrian physicist and neurologist Sigmund Freud. His sometimes controversial theories and methods have had a transformative impact on psychiatry throughout history. However, Freud's personal experiences with addiction may have influenced the course of the field in many significant ways. In this episode, we examine the origins of psychoanalysis, Freud's role in its development, and the impact that his own addiction had on the field of psychiatry. Psychoanalysis emerged in the late 19th century as psychologists began to explore the workings of the human mind more deeply. Freud was particularly interested in the idea of the subconscious and how it shaped human behavior. He developed several theories and techniques centered around exploring and understanding the unconscious mind, particularly through the use of free association and dream analysis. Freud's contributions to the field of psychology also included his emphasis on early childhood experiences, particularly the parent-child relationship, in shaping an individual's adult personality. He believed that individuals may repress certain experiences or emotions, leading to the development of neurotic behaviors or other psychological disorders. Freud's ideas and methods gained widespread recognition and popularity, and he became one of the most influential psychiatrists of the 20th century. Freud struggled with addiction throughout his life, particularly with cocaine and tobacco. Some have argued that his experiences with addiction may have deepened his understanding of the human psyche. Others have suggested that they hindered his work and caused him to overlook or dismiss certain insights. One area in which Freud's addiction is thought to have influenced his work is his theories on the therapeutic use of cocaine. Freud had a personal passion for using cocaine therapeutically. He believed that the drug had the potential for treating various physical and mental ailments, and even used it himself for a time. However, after experiencing negative side effects and addiction, he ultimately abandoned this practice. His addiction may have also affected his willingness to consider alternative treatments or viewpoints. He famously dismissed the use of hypnosis in psychotherapy, even though some of his contemporaries found it to be very effective. One of the most significant impacts of Freud's addiction in the field of psychiatry is how it shaped the stigma surrounding addiction in mental health. During Freud's time, addiction was often viewed as a moral failing or a weakness rather than a medical condition, which it is considered and widely believed today. Freud, however, saw addiction as a manifestation of unconscious psychological conflict and believed that it could be treated through psychoanalytic therapy. While Freud's views on addiction were groundbreaking for their time, for sure, The field of psychiatry continued to struggle with understanding and treating addiction through much of the 20th century. Many still viewed addiction as a moral rather than a medical issue, and effective treatments were often elusive. While Sigmund Freud's contributions to the field of psychiatry cannot be overstated, his addiction may have influenced his work and the field more broadly in even subtle ways. His emphasis on understanding the unconscious mind remains a cornerstone of psychoanalysis, but it's worth considering how his addiction may have shaped its views and affected the course of history in psychiatry. The stigma surrounding addiction still presents a challenge in mental health, but the advancements and innovations that emerge from psychoanalysis continue to shape the field and provide hope for those struggling with addiction and other psychological conditions. Though Freud's addictions continuously and certainly impacted his life and work, their ultimate influence on history, for some, is a matter of interpretation. Please remember, if you or someone you know has a problem with drug addiction, please click on the link to my website at scottdavismd.com to work with you or someone you care about to find a path back to recovery and a better life. Please join me again on this channel to explore how the addiction of another famous person would ultimately change the course of history. I'm Dr. Scott Davis, and thanks again for joining me.